Hello and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about routing without a template. Sometimes you're going to build a guitar and it's going to be a one-off, it's going to be maybe a prototype of some sort, you just want to experiment, and it might not seem like a good idea to spend the time making templates. If you have the time to spend, I think you should do it. But sometimes there are situations where you can get away without doing templates. For example, here I have a pickguard for a Stratocaster, making a nice template to route out the cavity that is going to be under it is probably the right way to do things, but you don't actually need to. If it's a guitar for yourself or maybe a close friend or something and they're not going to see the inside of the guitar anyway, it's quicker and easier to just do it by hand. You still have to think about a couple of things, and so I'm going to share those things with you. When you can get away with doing fast and easy things, it might be a good idea. But if you are making something like, for example, a neck pocket, I suggest you do take the extra time to make a template, because a neck needs to really fit to the body perfectly. It's very important that they are connected solidly. And so you should really try your best to make them fit together well. Just making a template for that case is always worth the time. So we are going to route freehand the cavity we need for this pickguard right here. Okay, so here we have the guitar body, and as you can see under here there is no cavity. And here we have the pickguard. And before anyone asks about this body, I've shown you this in some other videos. It's just a body that I quickly threw together so I could show you guys how you do some things. So it's just a test piece. It's just to have something that we can destroy if we have to for the videos. What we need to do is think about a couple of things. First thing, we align the pickguard so that it fits where we want it. And then we have to mark out a couple of things. We have to mark out where the holes for the screws are going to go. And then we have to mark out this neck pickup, because as some of you might know, it's kind of easy to route here in the middle pickup, or here where the back pickup is, because you have a lot of space. But here we're very close to the edge, and you don't want to accidentally route too much and make a hole where someone can see through there. So what you need, or at least what I use, is a knife that only has a beveled edge on one side. I don't know if you can see that on this, but I put the knife here and I line it up so that the flat side, where the bevel is not, is towards the edge here. And that's where I mark out in the hole where they join up. So if I remove this pickguard, I'll have a mark here, and I'll just see if I can make it a little bit more visible right there. And if I put the pickguard back in its place, I can see, which you can't from that angle, a tiny little mark in the hole there, and there's nothing there. So now I can find the right sized drill bit. You find it by holding a pickguard and seeing if it fits in there, like so. And now I can use this, and I put one side of it, so not the middle pin, which is where the drill will center itself, but the side where it will cut. I put that up to the line, and then I press it down so it covers that mark, because we don't need to actually cut any further. And so now I have a mark here that you hopefully can see, and I can drill here. And this drill bit will be there on the edge, so it might look a little bit weird because you want to go there, but it will cut away in where the screw is going to go, but not further. And that's just to give ourselves some space. Now we can remove the neck and start working with removing wood in the cavity. Okay, so I've taken off the neck and I've clamped the body down so it won't move. If you're ever going to use a router, you need to make sure, this is like the most important safety thing when it comes to routers. You have to make sure that whatever you're going to route into is clamped down and is not moving around. It's one thing if you're like, you know, just poking holes with an awl or something, but you know, you don't need to clamp things down for that maybe, but routing, you definitely need to make sure things aren't moving. So now I'm going to drill 3 holes here, this one here, and it is moved up to the edge. I try to hold the bit straight, and I'm going down about the same depth as the neck pocket. You obviously don't want to go through the body, but other than that, at this stage, this depth isn't that important. Just don't go too deep, stay on the lighter side for what we're doing at this stage. And now I'm on to the next. Okay, so we're just gonna put the pickguard back on, line up the marks for where the screws are gonna go, and we're just gonna see that here we are all cleared, here we're all cleared, we have a bit more meat here so it's more obvious that we're clear, and here is also where we're clear. And now I'm gonna take my awl and I'm gonna mark out this side, and I'm gonna mark out the holes for the switch and also for these pots that are gonna go through here. And we're gonna start out by drilling these 3. Okay, so now we have these 6 holes, and I'm just gonna take a ruler on the edge here. And I'm gonna take my knife again, it only has an edge on one side. And I have made a guitar builder's life hack video where I show you these knives, so if you want to make your own ones of these, you can find a video series on my YouTube channel where I talk about this. These knives you can make out of any scrap piece of metal you have. They are very easy to do, you just sharpen one side and keep the other one flat. And now I have 2 lines that I've made here, and so I can route this away. But first I'm gonna do the same thing to the other 2. Okay, so now I'm gonna start routing, and what you need is one of these routing bits that has a bearing on the top. And that's because we're gonna do shallow depths, but we're only gonna go up to this line far enough so that we can use it to roll the bearing on and clean everything up. I hope this makes sense. Hopefully you'll be able to see when I'm doing it. Don't forget eye protection and ear protection, because it's gonna get loud. So I push the router down to the body and I start the machine. Okay, so what I did was I routed back and forth like this, going a little bit deeper with each pass until I got to a depth that I felt is probably enough. I cut to the line as close as I could and made a groove that was the same size as the bearing, so that I could then use the bearing to clean it up. And if you do it like that, you'll get fairly nice, clean cavities. The next thing now is, if you look at a pickup, they have usually these little triangle parts where the wires are connected. So the pickup will not really fit because it has this shape. And so we have to get that out as well. You can put a pickup in upside down like this, and you can mark it out by just following around like this. And it's easy if you have an old crappy pickup. Now I can see this groove here. And you have to do this to all of them. But it's facing this way on the neck and middle, and it's facing this way, the opposite way, in the back cavity. And so we just take our blade and we mark it out. I don't know if you can see those marks. They don't show up that well on the camera, but here they are. The only thing that is really important is that you make sure you can see them when you go to router. I'm just going to cut these out real quick and we'll move on to the next part. Okay, so the next step is going to be the cavity that goes here and that is connected to these. You can connect these by routing a small little channel here. You could also just drill. But I'm just gonna remove this wood here, connect these. I'm gonna put out some tape. And I'm just gonna put a piece here, remove the pick guard, put it down, put it back in its place, put tape down here maybe, hold it where I want it to be, and draw a line for where it's going. And then I'm going to move the line in a bit because we have to pass the holes. I'm just going to connect the dots. Hold this back in place. Make a mark for that dot. Hold this there. And basically just something like that. And then from here we'll see where we go. But this much I know I'll be able to remove. And so we're just going to take the pickguard again and we're just going to make these marks a little bit more visible. And we're just going to drill them out with a bigger drill bit. And the reason why I hog out like this is because it's nicer on the machine. And now I just know that these two I basically just have to connect. Something like that. The same goes for these. And I'm just free hand drawing in these curves here. And we are gonna have to remove some wood for the switch as well. And this is one of the reasons why I think making templates is maybe a better way to go, because you only have to do these measurements once. So I'm just gonna hog away some of the wood in between here, and I'll be back before you know it. Okay, so now I've hogged out a little bit. I just plunged with a drill and then I took a chisel and I just snapped off some of the in-between parts. And it's, again, just so that my router doesn't have to work that much. I'm gonna round with the router over some of these, and I'm gonna try to make this a straight line. And I'm gonna clean up this, and I'm just gonna make this whole thing look a little bit nicer. And I'm gonna do it the same way I did before, by going down and going around the whole thing, just making enough space for my bearing here, and then I'll actually clean up the Okay, so now I've gone around and I've made a line. It's not perfect here right now, but we have to make room for the switch anyway, so let's just continue and see if we can hog out the rest. Okay, so we put the pickguard back in its place. We take the knife again, the one with one edge, and we make a mark for where the switch is. Take it out and make a mark for the screw. And there we have it. I don't know if you can see the lines. And then we have to take and do a measurement and push this line back about maybe 3 mil, something like this. And the reason is because the switch will have a plate, and the plate will be easily overlooked, so we make room for it. And then we put the scratch plate back in its place, and I'm going to measure out where the screws for these two are, so that I can try to eyeball some sort of in-between cut for these two areas. Something like this. And that line is what we're gonna remove. Here you can see, hopefully, that I've made a lip. And so I'm going to hog all this away until my bearing can ride on this edge here. And there you have it. It's not perfect. I have some marks here. I could definitely need another pass to clean this up. But I think this will do for now. This is the quick and easy, dirty way. I don't recommend you build guitars this way, especially not if you're like trying to become like a guitar builder who actually like sells guitars or anything like that. But if you're building guitars for yourself and you're a hobbyist and you're trying to learn, and as you can see, the pickguard fits and there are no holes anywhere. So there it is. Well, there you have it. The routing is done. It's not the best routing. I wouldn't recommend you build guitars this way, but sometimes that's what you have to do, especially if you just want to try something out and you're doing maybe a one-off or something. Always think about where you can get away with taking shortcuts and where you can't, and where it will be visible and where it won't be visible. Also, where it will be a structural integrity thing or if it's just a cosmetic thing. You have to have all these things in mind when you build guitars. But I hope this video somehow helped you. Let me know in the comments below if it did. If you wouldn't mind giving me a thumbs up, I would appreciate that. And maybe even subscribing. Until next time, stay awesome and cool, and go and build something. Bye bye now.